NJ, Cody Iron Works. Before I had the nice shop and was doing all the videos, I was a portable blacksmith. For over 25 years, I shod horses off the back of a truck. And when I moved back to Cody full-time and decided that I wasn't going to shoot horses anymore and start blacksmithing, I just transposed the horseshoeing truck into a blacksmithing truck. And then I transposed that into this 20-foot trailer that I use for blacksmithing on. Now you can go back and watch the videos of that years ago. You can go back and see the old videos. What I want everybody to understand is this is more about knowledge than it is about the tools, and I'm going to show you. So for years I used a little forge just like this. This is a portable forge. This is actually a lot fancier than the one I used for years on the back of the truck when I was doing my thing on the off of Main Street in Cody, Wyoming. I actually made that one. It was just a base filled with concrete, and then I actually did make or did find a blower. Now back then they didn't make blowers, but now you can order hand crank blowers on Amazon, and this little forge does have a hand crank blower. Let's see if I can show it to you there. There it is. So during COVID, I could do live streams from the inside of the building, but I can't do that now. For some reason, they've throttled back the internet in my area, and we can't do live streams anymore. So we're going to move it outside, and I'm going to show you how with some very, very basic equipment. Especially in a scenario where if you have the knowledge to be a blacksmith, you can make almost every tool that you need for this. So I'm going to roll this out so we can get a little bit of a look at it. So I'll tip this down a little bit because this isn't really about me. So a lot of guys keep a Bugout bag, and I keep a Bugout bag, but I also keep a Bugout blacksmithing kit. So in this box is the basic tools that I use for blacksmithing. Now, not all the tools are in there, but we'll go over some of the basics. We'll go over that you don't need an anvil. In fact, in many cases, you're better off not using an anvil because anvils are heavy and they're hard to pack around. And you can be as innovative with this as you want. So let's get started. So this is a drop piece of steel that I picked up at the local machine shop, production shop in my area that was in the scrap pile. It probably weighs, it's probably 20 pounds or maybe 25 pounds. But because it's got these holes in it, it makes it really handy for doing blacksmithing stuff. And I'm going to show you. So then we'll slide around here. I'll tip this down. Yeah, we can see the box there. All right. And we'll dig into the box. So, of course, you're going to need something to get some fuel, procure some fuel. There's the axe that I forged here. My son and I forged a while back. Somebody dropped off an old lawnmower blade, pretty handy. Here's kind of a handy tool, a binder. There's the beginning of a heading tool, just some holes drawn in it, and some little drops of mild steel. But in this box, with this chain, is, and this is a handy thing, and everybody ought to have one of these. This is a tool roll. So this is just a piece of canvas with with slots in it for you to put tools. Now, in mine, I have auger bits. Augers are pretty handy to have if you're doing any kind of woodwork. So I was pretty much a Bugout blacksmith, portable blacksmith for a lot of years, and I was doing this since before there was a lot of rechargeable tools. Now, having a rechargeable drill is a really handy thing, but you don't necessarily need a rechargeable drill. But if you can't find a piece of drop, or someplace where you can't find a piece of drop, this is a great tool. So, and you can't tell me you can't find one of these, because this is just half of a 15-pound sledgehammer head that I cut in half, and I run a hole through it. And the reason that I left the hole in there is it's pretty handy, because you'll see in a minute we're going to be able to chain this down to a stump. And so that makes that tool really usable. But you don't have to. You could use a regular old stump with a full head and just set the head down into the stump with a chisel. Cut out a mortise and drop the head into the stump if you want it. All right, what else do we got in here? Of course, we have a rasp. This is an old school, no tang on this one. It's an old school farrier's rasp. Those are kind of handy. They work really great for wood. Of course, you got to have a couple of hammers, and I love these rounding hammers. They're a little hard to find now, and they're pretty expensive, but you can find them around. Here's just a bunch of old spikes. These are 12-inch whole barn spikes, or some people call them bridge spikes, but the great thing about them is they're long enough to make a short set of tongs out of. So if you're needing tongs in a pinch, you can make them. If you don't have those, a couple of pieces of bar stock with a ring. A lot of people call these bush tongs. I read a book years ago that showed these tongs in it. Of course, you can adjust, if you have some fire, you can adjust the bits on them to any shape you need. Of course, to procure material, you're going to need some basic tools, a couple of cold chisels. Got to have that. And of course, a hacksaw. That's a pretty basic tool. You're going to need one of those, or in some cases, a reciprocating saw really works. So if you don't have electric drills, a brace is nice. The bad part about a brace is they only have two bits, they only have two jaws in them, and they don't hold round drill bits. But this is called a speed wrench, and you can buy them at a pawn store, or probably get them online for under 20 bucks. And then on Amazon, you can get one of these. Now, this is just a driver. It's just a chuck that snaps with a 1/2 inch right on there. And now you have a drill. And you'd be surprised how much drilling I've done with that. And of course, I carry a set of drill bits. I carry a sharpening stone, so you can sharpen the drill bits, sharpen the knives and stuff. That's pretty handy. And then I carry just a couple of pieces of air hardenable stock. This is some tool steel. This is probably sucker rod that will hard enough air harden for you to do most of the cutting that you need to do, if you don't want, or punching or any of that kind of stuff, if you don't want to use your chisel. And then of course I have a series of, I've got some hammers, I've got some tie wire, a couple of chain. I carry some reciprocating saw blades. These bimetal blades are really handy because if you don't have a hacksaw in a pinch, these will work great, and they're actually easier to carry. You can either fabricate a handle for them. I've used vice grips for the handle, or you can just take some duct tape or something and put around them. The good thing about these is they're flexible and they can get into places if you're trying to procure material and you have to cut bolts off. You can use these in a place that a lot of times you can't get a hacksaw to. So that works pretty good. But I'm going to show you how we're going to set up this anvil today, or anvil-shaped object. And then we'll see how it goes, and if people are still watching, then maybe we'll do a little blacksmithing. I might start the forge up. So this is a stand for one of my old anvils that I sold. Can you guys see that? Is that in? And there's a couple of ways you can do this, but if you got a chain and a binder, this is fairly easy. Now, if I was going to choose one of these to have, I would definitely use this one, because it's got holes so you can flip this sideways, and you can punch holes with this tool. The holes in this are really useful. Also, it's got clean edges. Where these old hammers, most of them, they have rounded edges. So if you're trying to make a shoulder on anything, you have to make some kind of a shoulder tool. Whereas I already have the tool on the anvil-shaped object here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that binder and a piece of chain. Hopefully this chain's long enough. I have to go get another piece. We're going to be fine there. We're just going to use this binder. Another blank. Now you have an anvil. Now, ideally, you want your anvil to be knuckle high. When you're standing about it, you want it that high. But in a pinch, it doesn't have to be. If you're doing this down on a dirt, of course, you could dig yourself a hole and get your height right. But you're using this for demonstration purpose only. So there's your anvil. Better than a lot of anvils that are around, and it already has a better face than most anvils that you see around have. And the great thing is, if it gets a little wore out, you just grind a new face on it. Okay. So we're going to start this forge up, and I'm going to show you the difference between different kinds of fuels. Now, I have in the past used, of course, in the shop, I use propane. We use charcoal, and here I get coke in. I have my coal supplier. He gets in coke. Now, I have found that coke is as cheap to ship into Cody, Wyoming from Georgia, where it comes from, as coal. And of course, you're not having to coke up your coal before you try to run it in the forge. I've done quite a few videos on these in the past. If you've got more interest in that, you can go back and watch the other videos. But this is just a piece of, I don't know, it looks like a piece of 1x that I found in the driveway. So we're going to try to start this. We're going to try to start this forge. So I've just got this super sharp axe, and I'm in here and I'm just making up a bunch of kindling to go in here. making shavings. So the easiest is charcoal, because in the past I've been at places where I've actually had to make my own charcoal to use for forging. It's fairly easy to make, and I have done some videos on that. You'll have to dig deep, but we might do some videos on that in the future if this takes off. All right. You can see I cut up about half of that. It doesn't take much. Now, this is just lump charcoal that I bought at Walmart. Lump hardwood charcoal. And it works fine for fuel. It's ashy. You've got to clean your pan out a lot more often, because the ash builds up and it'll clog up your tweer. And most of it comes in great big pieces like this, which is not ideal. But the great thing about that is it breaks up really easy. So I'm just going to throw a couple of pieces of this charcoal in here, and we might cheat this a little bit. We might cheat this a little bit because I happen to be in the shed here, and I just noticed I've got some camp stove fuel right here in the trailer. I don't like to keep the stuff in the blacksmith shop, just because it's flammable. So I keep it out here in the trailer. But we'll just put a little of that on there like that. Some people call that white gas. Maybe I can even bring you guys in here and show this. We'll see. I don't know how the I don't know how the connection's going to be, and I'm sorry if it's bad. Oh, look, fire. Great thing about, and every charcoal barbecue should have a blower. I am working on getting some internet in the shop. And there we have it. So I am going to do a series, and I've been waiting until I get some internet in the shop to do this forging for the apocalypse series of videos. And I'm going to show everybody how to build a forge. In fact, I've got a couple of my live streams. I've got a live stream that shows me building forge with one sack of Crickcrete is all it takes. These are a little harder to come by. You can make them, but really the price from India now, you can order one from India, and if you never used it and you just kept it in the back of your blacksmithing stuff, it'd be well worth having. Now you can, I don't know if you can see, but the heat is, oh yeah, you can see the heat building up there. And everybody's like, well, prove it. Prove that it gets hot enough. Okay, I will. So I'm going to go over here and grab a handful of Coke. Now, Coke won't hardly start and forge by itself. Now, Coke is to coal what charcoal is to wood. So what they do is they put it in a retort and they cook it, and they cook all the impurities out of it, and it is a super high hydrocarbon filled fuel that burns super hot and burns super clean. It's getting harder and harder to find, so we all might be going back to charcoal at some point. All right, well, why don't we make us a set of tongs? So I'm going to grab up a couple of these big long nails. Grab up a hammer. Grab up a hammer. Grab up a couple of these big long nails. And we'll see if we can't build us a set of tongs quick. So having a pair of gloves would be handy, because I know that's going to get hot. But it won't take long in there. You want to get it right down there where, in the base of the fire, where it's getting really good and hot. Hopefully you can see how hot that's getting. I got my hammer right here. I'm all set up over here. So if you mix your charcoal and your coke together, your fire won't go out. But if you quit putting air to the coke, you have a pretty good chance that your coke your coke fire will go out by itself. In the old days, they take a little wagon spoke and they shove down in their coke fire to keep it going in between. And they would just push the wagon spoke in there while they were forging them. Oh yeah, we're getting there. So I did this every day. This was the fire I started 4 or 5 days a week, every day behind the Irma all summer long for about 4 years. And I made a ridiculous amount of stuff. Okay, so we're there. I'm going to show you how hot that is. Just that fast. We're at forging temperature. Okay, so let's turn this around. This would be a lot easier if I had somebody helping me film this, because I can't even hardly see these. See that? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a set of tongs for holding round stuff. So we're going to make a little miniature set of wolf jawed tongs. So I'm going to flatten this first. Something like that. I'll do the same to the other one. Give this a little crank to keep the fire going. Flatten this up. I lived off of what I forged out of this trailer for several years. Pardon me while I like this. Okay. Are we still going? All right. Cranking away. Feeding the fuel back in on top of itself here. We might have to add some more fuel. I'm not going to add a ton of fuel to this. Okay. There's half of our bit for holding our round stock. It's super efficient if you don't have more of a fire than you need. So you just start a small fire, add a little bit of fuel as you need it. I think I want to get that shank out of the way a little bit. So now that I got that set, I might go a little deeper. We might want a little more holding room. Looks pretty good. That's going to hold. Okay, so the heat is climbing on those a little bit. It's pretty hard to build anything without tongs. So I might draw that back just to get that out of the way a little. lengthen this one up. Here's the one thing I forgot. I brought the fire extinguisher, but I forgot the water. Pretty much that's our one ring. We want to leave a lot of thickness in there because you don't want to weaken up the back of the ring. Charcoal's fairly easy to make. I've made 55-gallon barrels at a time. I've made probably 500 gallons charcoal. Now, when you do the reins on your tongs, you do them exactly the same. They aren't opposite. So, however you did the first one, you also want to do the second one. I'll take that out too. I might have to find something to hold these with. Generally, I like to make tongs with no tongs. So if you have a long enough stock, you can do this without uh, having to have a set of tongs to make a set of tongs. And it's probably the most valuable thing is to learn how to make chisels and punches, harden them, and tongs, because you're never going to have enough of that stuff. But the other thing you're learning is a way of thinking. that tool off. There's your tongs. Now you could punch the holes, and I might punch the holes. I might have a punch over there. You could always make a punch. But like a fool, I didn't bring any water out to quench. We live in the desert here, so it's not like I can go find a little pool of Of course, you could nail this down, but if you nailed it down, then you wouldn't be able to utilize the holes in the side of it. Right. I'm gonna go get a little water and we'll cool them off. So you could punch these using a punch, hot punch them. Of course, that would require you to make a punch, which ain't that big of a deal. But let's try something else, shall we? Let's try one of the hardest things that there is to come by when you're doing this. The anvil's the easy part. The hard part is a vise. The vise is the hard part of this deal. So let's see if we can clamp this down. Good enough. Maybe. Now we're doing this on the fly. And I hope you guys understand that. That's a big drill bit. Okay. What we got in here? 3/8. 5/16 looks like it's brand new, never been used. Let's try that one. Maybe. Oh. All right. There's a lot of ways to make vices. This is one of the easiest ways I found. I don't know if I can get enough down pressure to make this work. Try a smaller drill bit. Catch a little easier. This works a lot better. This is much more usable in wood. I've drilled a lot of holes in sheet metal with one. There we go. That's cut a little bit. The easier way to do this would be to punch it. Cutting though. Once you get past the mill scale, Yeah, we're getting there. The mill scale is much harder than the steel. If you get rid of the mill scale, can you hear it cutting? We're getting there. Sharp drill bit helps. Start with a small hole, then go up to the size that you want, because then you're not cutting the whole hole. Can't see what you can see. Yeah. You can see that it's much less labor intensive to just punch a hole, but I wanted to show that you could do it without. Fire keeps going so it doesn't go out. Tough, I'm an old man. Where's my son to do this? Of course, in an apocalypse situation, probably going to have all the time in the world. The good thing about this is it's much easier to get your holes even and straight. A blacksmith wouldn't do this, he would just punch it. I've got to be almost through. On a good note, I'll be able to tell how long it took me. Drill a 1/4-inch hole through it. Can't push down as hard as I want because the stand is not solid. If you were actually using a stump that was set into the ground, it'd be much easier. For wood, though, even real hard wood, imagine the Inuits using a bow drill. Do this, but they held in their teeth. Getting some cuts, just very slowly. Running out of gas. Oh man. The challenge. There. NJ, go get a drill. Is it painful to watch yet? We've got 7 rechargeable drills in the shop. Why are you doing this? I want to show what can be done. Whoops, I don't unbutton my shirt, undress myself. What happens when you get sore, tired. If you had a way to put some more down pressure on this. Look at the, now I'm getting some shavings out of it. Oh, you better go. Hey, got it. All right. Got it through. Now, I am not going to drill that other one that way. I'm going to go get a drill. Because this is 2024. I'll be back in a second, everybody. But you can see that finding a good way to hold the work down, that when you feel that you're going through a hole like that, let off. It'll keep you from breaking your drill bit. There we go. Well, that was easier. Okay. But you can see that holds fairly good. That tool, now you could use a ratchet strap, but the bad part about a ratchet strap is they melt. All right. Look at there. Now, I don't have to tell you guys about making nails, right, and rivets. This is a straight one. I've done a ton of videos on making nails, right? And essentially what you're going to do here is you're going to make a nail. And instead of a square nail, you just make a round nail, or as round as you can. I'm just going to try it. We'll get a chisel. So I made a nail earlier. Wonder what my nail. Should have put a piece of cloth over it. Let's try that again. You want to leave about the width of your rivet or nail. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to put that whole thing in the forge. See if we can't get it caught. Hopefully we didn't lose our whole fire here while we were screwing around with the drill. This is called the twinkle breaker. It breaks the ash up in the bottom. I'm looking for some color change and everything. You really only need the end of the rivet hot. There we go. Go back over here. Too tight. Twisting this up, it'll help it get tighter. We'll make it work. Like that. Too much, actually. If you have too much rivet, you'll cant the rivet. And then you'll bind up your tongs. You don't want too much. Once we got that down in there, it was clear I had too much. Need to cut a little more off of it. Which is going to be challenging now that it's short, hot. Well, let's see. This is all a learning proposition. Haven't done one like this in a very long time. Haven't had to. Got better tools now. On a good note, if I do this right, I can round my rivet up a little bit so it's not quite so square. Got pretty straight. All right. Let's try this again. Potentially. You don't have a set of Leatherman tools. You should get a set because it's pretty hard to do anything when it comes to building or repairing on a regular daily basis, much less in a emergency situation without. I'm just going to heat up that rivet again. We're going to try this. They don't have to be tight. As a matter of fact, if they aren't tight, it actually works better. Of course, all this stuff is much, much easier if you have a helper. Okay, so now we adjust them. How do you do that? Well, put them in the forge and heat them up. Well, just a little bit. Definitely going to need some gloves on for this. So let's go get a piece of round stock that we want to fit. Probably that size. Another glove on, because that heat really cheats up that. Let those heat up. I'll move the camera around. Let's see what I'm going to do here. See, I need a second. I need a helper for doing this. Okay, so now we're going to cool that off. Cool the whole thing off. And then we'll bend it. We'll bend the reins. The reins is the handle part. I think we're just about there. All right, back in the fire. More cranking. Clearly, you could get as fancy with this as if you want, as you want it. So I'm going to cool off the frame behind right behind the rivet. And then I'm going to attempt bend these. I got that one bent pretty good. Let's see if I can do the other one. Cooling off. I'm doing a courtesy there. Let's cool them off. Cool off there where we can get a hold of them. So that's the basic form of a set of tongs. The good thing is after you have a little set of tongs like this, then you can adjust the jaws on them to fit anything you need. Big stock, little stock. And in a little forge like this, you don't need a big long set of 16-inch reined tongs. As long as you can keep your tongs cool, because you don't rarely have them in the fire. You don't want to use hardenable steel for your tongs because you're going to be quenching them off. And of course, every time you quench them off, they get hard. And the last thing you want is for them to get hard because then they get brittle. All right, those are getting fairly hot. Come down here where you can see what the heck we're going to do here. Got a little piece of material. Sort of a little set of wolf-jawed tongs. And there you go, basic tongs out of a 2 12-inch pole barn spikes. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could heat them up, and you could put them in sideways like that, and then tap them again, and then that would make a place for you to hold both this way and this way on them. But I think this live stream is long enough, and I don't think anybody's watching it, and who knows if anybody's ever going to watch it. So, if you like the content, please subscribe. Get it hot and hit it. Always wear your safety squints. If you have any questions, just leave them and I'll answer them, and I might even do a video reply. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody.